As usual with these off the cuff um, takes, I forgot something. So I was talking about how you still have an opinion, you still have a right to an opinion, you still have the right to freedom of speech, and you should speak out loud, whether you vote or not. If someone doesn't want to listen to that because they don't think you have the right to any of that because you decided I'm not voting between a genocidal candidate and a genocidal candidate, um, fuck them, I guess. Talk to them, try to get them to see your view, but fuck that mindset. Uh, it's also pretty hard for a lot of people to get excited about candidates who aren't, like I said, who aren't talking about anything. Here comes the blue collar aspect of this channel. We are at a 20-year high for layoffs. You ain't heard one fucking Democrat talk about that. Unless they're progressive running for office, and I'm coming at some progressives in office even, they ain't said shit about the economy for the most part. They're starting to talk more about affordability. They're listening to Zoran Mamdani. You're seeing progressives who ran on affordability. I forget his name. It's a very southern Texas name, but there was a special election in Texas where a progressive, it was a state election. He ran for state legislature or state senate, I believe. He shellacked the Republican, running on progressive policies like universal affordable housing. There was a progressive in New Jersey who just beat out a career Democrat. I don't think he was an incumbent, Tom Malinowski, but yeah, she was being attacked by APAC. So yeah, it is very possible to take bold stances and win as a progressive, whether it's a safe blue seat or a red seat. There was also just a seat in Louisiana, a woman named Chastity Martinez. I'm not sure of her politics, but how bad it's gotten in this country is that Trump won that state district, or that congressional district, I guess state district, by 13 points in 2024. In this special state election, Chastity Martinez won it by 27 points. No, I'm sorry, it was 14 points. It was a 27 point flip, I believe. Something like that, yeah. If I'm that off, I'll come correct myself later. But go look up the name Chastity Martinez in Louisiana. These elections are happening all over the place. And it's not because they're running on nothing. It's not. They're at the very least making an appeal to people when it comes to affordability. Now, that's what our party needs to do. Like I said, the line in the sand is you should be supporting a policy of defunding ICE at the very least, if not abolishing ICE, cutting their budget and creating restrictions, not allowing them to wear masks, make it so that they need a judicial warrant. These are things that they actually fucking need too, but it's ridiculous that they're not following it, and we feel we need to pass these laws. Ending the arming of genocide in Israel, ending the arming of Israel, sanctioning Israel, cutting trade ties. There's a lot of things like that, like I said, are the line in the sand. But when it comes down to it, just for example, my own personal situation, let's go beyond ICE and Gaza, or Israel in general. Madeline Dean and Josh Shapiro have not spoken up on unionizing, the Protect the Right to Organize Act, the PRO Act, increasing minimum wage. And I understand we don't have a majority in either chamber, and Trump wouldn't pass any of this, but you got to speak on it. Countless times, Bernie and progressives have floated or introduced legislation that they know isn't going to pass because they want people to say, oh, they're in favor of that and they're not. That supports me. They don't. So we need that. Madeline Dean, like I said, she's let me down. I think a lot of people are going to feel let down by Bob Harvey in PA1 against Brian Fitzpatrick because he's not standing up for anything. He's going to lose. Even in a year like this. If I'm wrong, I'm happy I'm wrong because Bob Harvey will still probably be somewhat better than Brian Fitzpatrick. But we're dealing with a lot of Democrats who, when it comes to, and I'm getting away from, like I said, my line in the sand just to talk about actual policy besides that, because I think it's just fucking morality. You shouldn't be abducting people based on race, and you shouldn't be bombing people based on race or land. I think if you're a Democrat and you're not talking about affordability, you're not talking about, at the very least, universal education, universal housing, universal health care, increasing minimum wage, the right to organize, the right to unionize, workers' rights in general, antitrust laws, taxing billionaires, you don't have a place in our party. That's where I think we should be. We shouldn't be at that point where we're saying, oh, if you don't vote for people you don't believe in, you don't get an opinion. It's like, no, if you don't vote for people you don't believe in, you did the right thing by not voting for them. You weighed your options. And yeah, sometimes it is a lesser of two evils situation, but I look at it this way. We did that for years. And in 2016, we got Trump over Clinton because she was the lesser of two evils. We got away with it with Biden in 2020 because he ran on certain progressive things and promised to do things like Build Back Better. They tried, they failed because they didn't hold the party accountable in ways that, in areas where we had, conservatives and corporatist Democrats that said, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing paid sick and family leave. We're not doing Build Back Better in general, increasing minimum wage, universal community college, public option health care. Joe Manchin even voted down universal price caps on drugs to the extent that it only applied to a few drugs for people on Medicare above a certain age. So we are at that point where it's not so much if you don't vote, you don't have an opinion. If you vote for if you vote for Democrats who do the same thing as Republicans on human rights, and then do next to nothing or the same thing as Republicans on I'm trying to say, next to nothing or the same thing as Republicans on everything else, on economic and social issues, you don't have a fucking right to talk. Again, let me end it on what I always say. If it's wrong when Republicans do it, it's wrong when Democrats do it.